With the release of Shadowverse Worlds Beyond second set Infinity Evolved, we now have 7 brand new starter decks that we're actually able to choose from and get one of them for free. Let's break them down, see the type of cards that we have available to them, and which one is right for you. Alright, so we managed to get into the very long loading that it took for the download. Servers are kind of getting hit here, but what we can already see from when we get in here is the preview of all 7 decks, featuring some very key legendaries for quite a few of them. So go ahead and jump into the lots of events here. Woo. So of course, as a quick reminder, there are additional new events. We're doing volume 2 of the Rupees Galore event, the bonus bundles, all that kind of jazz here. But here we have the deck giveaway, Infinity Evolved deck giveaway. Celebrate the release of Infinity Evolved by getting a free deck of your choice. All decks include a legendary card from the first and second set. So this is huge because it gives you the opportunity to be able to flesh out your collection in terms of if you weren't able to pick up anything in set 1 and that you want to play a brand new deck, at least they're pulling in a set 1 legendary. So go ahead and click claim. And then we'll take a look at the different decks there. Like I was saying, there's 7 different decks here, so we'll go ahead and take a peep at all of them and kind of see where we stray from there. So, Officer Swordcraft, a simple strategy, fill the field with officer followers such as Knight to overwhelm your opponent here. So, as far as the legendaries go, you get an Amelia, which is actually really sick. Amelia is very solid. It's not like a hallmark card like an Albert or something like that, but it's a card that really helps with strategy and definitely leans into the super evolved stuff that the deck is trying to do. And what's funny here is that you see the Amelia and Gelt here. So you got Amelia, which you can draw your 2 Swordcrafts, recover your 3 play points, and on super evoke, give all your Swordcraft followers barrier. And then you've got the Gelt here, where if you have a super allied follower at the end of the turn, then you can go ahead and get all your stuff +1/+1, which is pretty sick there. And then the set 2 legendary here is Geldaria. So this is the one that super evolves for free. And then whenever another allied follower enters the field, you get to deal 1 damage to all enemy followers. So pretty solid. In terms of pickups here, we have 3 of the Centaurs, 3 of the Night Shadow. We got 1 Rosé, which allows you to be able to play your 2 cost that you draw for free. So definitely leaning aggro. We got the 3 Shinobis, we got the 2 Samurais. I think this is a fine deck. I think there's a lot of cards here that are very similar. You got the 2 Valses, so really up here on the golds, I think, more than last time. You got your 2 Zirconias. So if you haven't established a sword shell, I think this is definitely a decent pickup specifically for that deck. If you guys enjoy the type of breakdown videos that we do here, we're so close from breaking 2K subscribers, so the button down there would be much appreciated. Moving on, we've got Ramp, and I don't know if I'll be able to justify doing this, guys. The Ramp cards do not look amazing. As far as the 2 legendaries you get a Burnite, which is good. I mean, it's a solid card. It's a board wipe without having to cost you your Evo, which is always nice. And then the Crest sometimes does just win you games. And then as far as the other one goes, it is Fenny here, which is the one that on Fanfare will be able to reduce the cost of all the cards in your deck by half. So the idea here is that, like, hey, you play Fenny, next turn you draw, maybe you are able to play out 2 Genesis Dragons back to back, right? Or a Twilight Dragon and a Genesis Dragon. The idea is cute, but I don't think, look, here's the thing. When it comes to starter decks, first off, it's really hard to be able to pick a Ramp starter deck because the Ramp requires consistency to make it worth it to be able to take the tempo loss that it takes to be able to Ramp, right? So, like, look, when we're spending turns not doing anything by doing Dragon Sign just to max our play points, you want to get in a position where once you are at the play point level that you need to be at, you can start returning the tempo on your side. That's where cards like Burnite come in really handy. Cards like Neptune, so the fact that we get Neptune is really sick. Twilight Dragon, so on and so forth. But the problem is that if you don't have a certain level of consistency in being able to do that, running a lot of mediocre mid-range cards that kind of like, I don't know. I think this is kind of a half-measure deck where you've got some board control, but the Dragoncraft cards themselves aren't incredibly good. Burnite is fine, but it's not make or break for whatever Dragon deck you want to play as far as the set 1 legendaries go. And Fenny is cute. I definitely want to mess with it as a strategy. But in terms of a deck that you're looking to pick up, if you're trying to flesh out a strategy that you weren't able to in set 1, or as picking up a new strategy in set 2, I can't in good faith for now, until we've got, you know, maybe some pro is able to break the deck. But for now, I'm just not a big believer in this specific strategy at the moment. Moving on over, we've got Ward Havencraft. Now, I have high hopes for this one. Havencraft definitely felt like it was just kind of missing something to bring it all together. And here, I think you can definitely get there with Wilbert. So Wilbert is the first one. Ward less words. You get to get 2 Cavaliers, which they themselves have ward, and then you do get the crest on Evo, and then whenever an allied follower with ward enters the field, you get +1/+2, and then you get Salifa, which she herself has ward, is able to heal your leader, deal 3. Definitely would have been cooler if it was Jean personally, but I think this is fine. As far as what the rest of the deck provides you, you got 2 of the Ronaveros, which is a fine card. They were playing that in set 1. A couple of unholy vessels. It is late, ladies and gentlemen. And then we got the one of the Agnes Swiftblade there. In terms of just key cards, you got the Sanctuaries. You've got the Dose of Holiness. You do have the 2 Luminous Sensors, which are nice. It actually gives Havencraft a really meaningful way to heal. You got the Shieldman there. You got the Darkhaven Grey. So it does feel like you have a lot of key cards that Havencraft is already playing. And on the top end here, just slap in the Sacred Griffin, because why not? We need a way to close out the game. So I think this is decent. I think it's a pretty solid start. If you don't have a Salifa, if you don't have a Wilbert, those are cards that you are playing in the strategy. You do get some pretty staple cards as far as like you got the Ronaveros, the Unholy Vessels, so on and so forth. So I think pretty decent pickup if you're looking to play Havencraft. Moving on over, we've got Earthright to Runecraft. I don't know if I'm a believer in this. Let's see what they got. Oh, it does come with the Kuan though. And then if you picked up the, I think it was the Spell Boost, maybe it was the Earthright starter deck in set 1, that actually puts you at 2 Kuan without ever having to pull one, which is not bad. Look, I said it in my first set 1 video in regards to the starter decks. I think Kuan is an extremely important pickup if Runecraft is a class you're looking to play, and if you only have one or none, you kind of just need Kuan, so I think it's a good pickup. The other one here is Lilanthem, which I'm not super high on. I think it's fine. It's a 5/5 that'll effectively stick on board infinitely unless she gets banished, specifically with the strategy. As far as rounding out, we get Pascal's Dance, where you gain an Earth Sigil, and then you get the Crest at the end of the turn, draw a card, and you have Earthright 10, you double all the set stuff on your board. I think that's fine. You get 1 Owen, which is okay. In terms of other great pickups, I mean, Penelope is fine. It's definitely a card you play in Earth Sigil, so if you don't have that, then that's okay. And then you do have the Edelweiss also. I think it's okay. I don't think it's anything phenomenal. I think they're definitely compensating the rest of the deck with the fact that Kuan is in here. But if you need Kuans and you want to play Runecraft and you don't have Kuans, every opportunity you get to get a Kuan, I think just makes your deck that much better. Then we got Departed Abysscraft. So the feature legendaries here. Ooh, you get a Cerberus. Very nice. You get a Cerberus as well as a Genzetsu and Yuzuki. So this one on 9 is just a phenomenal play. If you're behind, you're able to destroy your opponent's board and be able to heal. If you're ahead, you just summon a bunch of one-tailed foxes, kind of sustain a little bit, and they make your Gengetsu even stronger, which is nice. As far as the other stuff we have in the deck, the golds we have access to is Orthus. Orthus is a fine pickup for the deck. Fanfare, you get to add 2 Shadows to your Cemetery, and then you get to do some damage on the board. If you evolve with the Rite Necromancer, you get Excella, which is a new card, 1/3 with Storm, and gets a buff depending on how many followers you have on the field, which you can set up with Shadow Crypt Memorial, which is very cool. And then you have a 1 of Laura, which is 6. So no insane combo with Laura here because she just costs 3. Like the most powerful thing you can kind of give Storm to is something like, I don't know, a Darksteel Demon or something like that. That not entirely sure, something like a Darksteel Demon or whatever, but just having that additional option I think is fine. So this is a pretty good pickup. 2 Cerez. I like Cerez a lot personally, although I know not every build like runs a ton of her. And otherwise it just feels out fine. I think this is fine. It feels like if you haven't had the chance to be able to get into like a tempo / mid-range, Abyss, the Cerberus kicks you off really nicely, and the Genzetsu do. So I think these are 2 fantastic legendaries that personally I think slot like 100% in that deck. And then we've got Puppetry Portalcraft. I feel a little bit suspect about this, but we'll see. Yeah, so that's what I figured. You get the Zwei and you get the Orcus. So Zwei on Fanfare gives you a Victoria, and then Orcus gives you the Lloyd. Here you just get the benefit with Orcus that if you super evolve, you get 2 copies of Enhanced Puppet. Orcus is still one of the best cards in the game. I think it'd be really hard for us to be able to say otherwise. So I think you want to lean into that. So let's see, you get the Metal Grade Assassins, you get the Lovestruck Puppeteers. Here we have Hinknar and Jafnar, which are new. So you get to evolve for free if you get to 5, and then on Last Words. And then on Last Words, if this follows evolve, you get to deal 4 damage to a random enemy follower, which is kind of sick. 2 Divine Thunders is pretty cool. This is a card that like even I didn't pull until like the very last few packs I had of set 1. So I mean, this is a card that goes in a ton of decks, so generically is really strong. And the rest is fine. I think Noah is good. Like I think like seeing Portal Puppet now and kind of a lot of the other decks, it definitely feels like they've leveled up in terms of this release to give you decks that give you pieces that are a lot more functional for the deck itself and or just in other places. So which is very nice. You get 2 of the Sylvia, excellent card in Portal. So lots of room to upgrade, but definitely strong starting point in my opinion. Moving on to Pixie Portalcraft here. Here we get both an Aria, which makes sense, as well as Titania. So Aria goes ahead and with the crest gives all your Pixie followers Storm, and then Titania gives you a crest where at the end of the turn, at the start of the turn, you get to add a fairy to your hand, which is very cool. On top of that, you get 2 Roaches. So Roach was already a very strong deck that you could pick up as far as the set 1 starter deck. I think we're in a very similar position here with set 2. You get your Tamers, you get your Journey Elf, you get your Ambush from Above, which is new, 1 Garden's Allure. So I think you can scrap a lot of the go big stuff. You get 2 Bales, which is huge for this deck. And I think if you're just looking, if you're picking up Shadowverse right now and you are trying to figure out what strategy you want to go with in terms of the ladder, if you didn't pick up Forest beforehand and it's a strategy that's interesting to you, I think it is definitely worth considering the pickup here. And with that, that actually loops us around all the way to the back. So I think in terms of what you want to pick up, a few considerations. I think the Pixie Forestcraft deck, if you just want a deck that can probably be very competitive out of the gate and you are a brand new Shadowverse account, I think this is definitely worth considering. Otherwise, I think Puppetry Portalcraft puts you in a good position to be able to start building towards Puppet Portalcraft because of you got the Sylvias, the Orcus, you got the Divine Thunders, which are just kind of good in everything, so it helps flesh out your collection as well. Zwei, I'm not super high on, but I think the rest of the deck kind of compensates really well for it. Departed Abysscraft, a great pickup as well because you do get the Cerberus and the Ginzetsu, which are 2 pieces that I think are must-haves for the tempo / mid-range Abyss deck. Rite, look, it's got Kuan. The way I'm going to spit it is that if you need Kuan, go for it. You get a couple of pieces that are pretty solid, like Penelope and Edelweiss, that are go into the Earthright deck. I don't know that I'm a believer in the Earthright deck yet, but if you need Kuan, I think it's a fine pickup there. Ward Havencraft is probably a good standalone strategy. You get a lot of cards that have been kind of staple in Havencraft in the first set, and those kind of just get added on here for this one, so I think this is a fine pickup. Ramp Dragon, can't recommend it in good conscience. I think the deck is just lacking. I think the strategy is lacking. I think you're going to be disappointed because not only is the deck like not really fleshed out, but you're going to have to dump a lot of vials and resources into a lot more legendaries, and even from that, the deck doesn't get all that much better from set 1. And already it was kind of And I think Officer Swordcraft is great as well. I think you get your Amelia, you get your Zirconias, your Gildadras. I think it's a great starting point if you haven't gone your way into fleshing out your sword collection. So in general, I think the set 2 starter decks are a good step up from the set 1 starter decks. Obviously, we get an additional legendary, which is always welcome, and it does feel like they provide us with more gold cards to make us feel a little bit better about kind of starting off with a strategy that we can actually at least take into ladder and free play and feel a little bit better about doing so. Let me know what's your favorite deck down in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.